So I'm listening to a national program, and they have Jon Gruden on, which I thought was very interesting because that's the first he's gone public since he was fired by the Oakland Raiders amidst all kinds of homophobic and racist emails that portrayed him as just an overall bad dude. And his message was very clear. And there is a reason why he went on a national show and faced the music. He got asked the hard questions about who leaked the emails, where's the lawsuit stand? And of course, he says, I'm just here to talk football. So he got those out of the way. But he's doing his football coaching academy or whatever he calls it. And he's asked, would you like to coach again? Now, let's start with this. There is no way he's ever going to get hired in the NFL. Correct, Caleb? Because you got 32 guys who are in charge of it. The NFL, for whatever reason, decided they despised him, and they're not going to ever hire him again, correct?
I don't think he's ever. I mean, didn't he also sued the NFL, didn't he?
Yes,
which
and
like
in the NFL. So he wants to coach again. So that leaves college and high school. Okay, well, let's take high school out of the equation. Let's go with college. So he's definitely tainted goods, correct?
Correct.
But he's a very good coach and a big name. And he also expressed how intriguing he thought the NIL and transfer portal were. Correct?
Correct.
University of Florida should hire Jon Gruden. They should. And there's a couple of reasons why, but I want to get your take initially before I make that argument.
I think you're insane. Here's why. Okay, here's why I think you're insane. One, there's a few reasons. Obviously, there's just the whole cloud of scandal over him, which will make it hard for him to build relationships that may be necessary. But on a larger scale, Dave, NIL and transfer portal has only increased the amount of attention and work coaches have to do on the recruiting trail and with connecting with players. Jon Gruden always hated recruiting. That's why he never wanted to go back to college. Never.
No, but I would argue that the recruiting would not be nearly as difficult with NIL and with the transfer portal.
Let me tell you what. Yes, but Jon Gruden is not built for college for this reason. Even if it's to a lesser degree, here's the problem with Jon Gruden. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly what it is. And we've all had friends that are like this. So let me just break this down real quick. Sometimes my wife does this, and I'm throwing her out. But no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Jordan. Don't get mad at me. But y'all know your friends and maybe girlfriends or wives or people like that want you to court them and ask them to like do something with you. So like they want to do it, but they don't want to commit to doing it because they want you to ask them to do it. They want you to beg them to do it because they like to be begged. Does that make sense?
Sort of. Keep going.
Jon Gruden likes to be begged. He likes to be courted. He likes to be the person that you approach.
Okay, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with that. And he was never going to coach at Tennessee. I do agree with what you said on recruiting in the previous evolution of football, changed since. And I also agreed that he liked to be courted, and he was never going to come to Tennessee. I know that there were people running around with cameras at McGee-Tyson Airport and all that sort of thing, but I can tell you, he did enjoy being flirted with, but now he wants a job. That's the difference.
I'm saying even if he wants a job, he wouldn't work at Florida or in college because his desire to be courted goes the other way. People who have that type of ego of wanting to desire to be courted, you want to know what you want to know what repulses them? Having to court someone. College is all about having to court people. You are asking people to come to you. You are asking people like, hey, can you please come help me? Can you please come play for me? Can you please come do this? That is so anathema to Jon Gruden. He wants to be the guy, and this is how he was in Tampa, to say, I'm the coach. I know ball. You're lucky to play for me. I'm not going to ask you to come play for me. You're lucky to be in my presence. There is no way that mentality is going to work at the college level. It's just not. And it never has. The only time it ever worked was Steve Spurrier, and that worked in the 90s. But Dave, I'm going to be honest with you. I think Steve Spurrier is a heck of a lot better play caller than Jon Gruden is.
I think Steve Spurrier is an overall better head coach. I mean, I think Jon Gruden is fool's gold to a large extent. I thought that when he was flirting with Tennessee, sure, he won a Super Bowl, but that team was put together by Tony Dungy, and they were absolutely loaded. He didn't have much success with the Raiders, but I'm telling you, if they did that, it would make a splash. He would be able to manipulate NIL and the transfer portal and get people excited if everyone can forget the most important fact that we haven't really discussed yet, and that is all the racist and homophobic things that he said in emails. So that's the big issue, right, Caleb? I want your thoughts. What the H brought to you by Medicare Misty.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Okay, poll question split 50-50. Should Florida hire Jon Gruden? Yes, best hire they can make. No, he's a dork. That's pretty cut and dry. You have to choose one side or the other. The big question is, the 800-pound elephant in the room is, could he overcome all that came out in that email scandal with players? Could he look African-American players in the eyes and potential homosexual players in the eyes and have their respect? That's the big question, right?
Yes, I think here's the thing. You can do that if you have the chops and the resume and I guess the acumen as a football guru to overcome it. Now, you think he's overrated as a guru. You don't think he's that much of a guru. So
agreed, but I think that's the best that Florida could do. Kind of like when Tennessee had to hire Jeremy Pruitt. That's the best they could do.
Well, no, they could have gotten Mike Leach at the time, who would have been better than Jeremy Pruitt. But
he would have been better, but I still don't think that's a slam dunk coach. As a matter of fact, I think that's the coach that does very similar record-wise that as Butch Jones would have, and that's get you to 9 or 10, but never get you over the hump. Rest his soul. That's what I mean. I think there's a ceiling there.
I think you're probably right, but still would have been better than Pruitt. But what I was going to say with Jon Gruden was that let's look at right now. I mean, we have a case study on this. Now, he's not winning and performing well, but in terms of recruiting, look at Hugh Freeze at Auburn. I mean, terrible person, absolutely got caught lying to his players. And it's out there that 10 years ago, he lied and trapped his players into signing with Ole Miss, knowing these violations were come, lied to them about the violations coming, framed Houston Nutt for them so the players would be forced to sign with him. And he did that because he wanted to make sure that they would be stuck with the program after the violations came down. And yet he's still got a top 10 recruiting class at Auburn right now. I mean, he's still doing fine at Auburn. So recruiting wise, not on the field. We can talk about that because he ain't doing fine on the field. But like that, where I'm getting with that is that, Dave, when you take that into account, it's really hard for me to look seriously at the idea that any sort of baggage like this actually matters. I guess the one thing I would say is maybe with Jon Gruden, he didn't have the resume that Hugh Freeze has as an offensive genius. And that's where I say I don't think they should hire him. I think they could get Lane Kiffin. I think they could get Deion Sanders. And I think both would be better than Jon Gruden.
Oh, Deion Sanders wouldn't be better. Come on.
I think Deion Sanders would be better than Jon Gruden. Deion Sanders would recruit better. He would recruit.
Okay, it sounds like I'm arguing with myself here, but I'm going to say this. I actually think, and we'll ask Jacob Warren, the Warren Report coming up here momentarily, but we'll ask Jacob Warren about this in just a second. I actually think that what Hugh Freeze had to overcome in his background of all the sexual malfeasance is more difficult to overcome than Jon Gruden and his racist stance. As far as in the culture of a team, I actually think that the latter, Gruden's, would be more difficult.
It's not the sexual prowess. It's the act. It's snaking players and trapping them into a recruiting class that he knew was going to be bad.
All the above. I still think the terminology he used in some of those emails, I'm totally recruiting against him. And I'm not going to say it because I've said this before. I don't think you go in and say, hey, I'm recruiting for school X, school Y. It's terrible. But I think you accidentally leave some clippings or email some clippings from an anonymous thing about how Jon Gruden used many racist terms and homophobic terms. But anyway, getting back to the point, Florida is in such a mess right now that they're not going to have the pick of the litter. Can we agree on that?
No, I don't, because I think as much of a mess as it is with Florida State and Miami stuck in the ACC, Florida could be the easiest job in the country, no matter how incompetently run they are.
But what I have learned from Tennessee, you have to have the administration in place. And right now they've got to fire an AD as well.